Shalom, welcome to Challenging Torah, a project of the Malibu Jewish Center and Synagogue. Today's portion, Chaye, written about an event 3,500 years ago, could easily once again be taken directly out of today's headlines. The subject is complex. It's aging and how our life cycle naturally ends in the death of those that we love, and Hebron, a city of conflict in the Middle East, and they come together in this Torah portion. It begins with the words, "And Sarah was 127 years old. These were the years of the life of Sarah." The story of Chaye, Sarah's life, begins with her death. The Midrash tells us, quote, "She retained the innocence of a 7-year-old when she was 20, and the beauty of a 20-year-old when she was 100. That's all sort of what we're looking for, isn't it? We don't quite know how Sarah dies. There's no introduction to it. We just see that she has died, but when we look back, the portions right before that are about what we call Akedat Yitzchak, the binding of Isaac. And of course, all of those writing Midrash claim that the death of Isaac and the shock around the death of Isaac has certainly hastened the death of Sarah. As a matter of fact, as Aviva Zornberg, the great scholar of our times, points out, Satan, in one of these Midrashim, has come to Sarah and is telling the story of what is happening, and she can visualize Abraham binding her beloved son on the altar. Below his speak, she doesn't wait to the end to hear the story, but her soul flies away. She dies. Loa speak. She can't even bear to hear the end, so she doesn't know the resolution. As we approach the later years of our life, Loa speak, or she'anachnu lo naspeak, we won't have enough time, starts to be one of the things that we focus on. Will we have enough time to see what we want done in our own lifetime? This is our fear. And with this acknowledgement in this portion of inevitable aging and death, we look for the resolutions, we look for pre-need. Pre-need, Abraham worried about pre-need, not for himself, clearly, or not for Sarah. He is worried about all of the progeny to follow, and he goes to purchase a burial site. And the Torah tells us that Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. And Abraham stood up from before the dead and spoke to the Hittites, saying, "I'm a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me possession of a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead." He is looking for what we call the cave of the Machpelah. And where is the cave of the Machpelah hidden? In existence until today, Hebron. Hebron, this morning, we are now the 6th of November, 2015, dating this particular statement, and we read, 2 Jewish teenagers shot at Hebron in violence. This morning. Hebron has become, in this last intifada of the knife, in this last period of time, it's become clear that the situation in Hebron has become impossible. And Abraham has said, "I am a ger toshav, a resident alien. Sell me a piece of land. It's not my land, but give me a little piece." The Jews generally are the ger toshav, and they're looking for the Jewish cemetery within a Christian world or a Muslim world. The irony, of course, is that right now, Israel considers the Palestinians ger toshav in that land. We have been fighting over the same piece of land for over 3,000 years. Imagine the concern. And as we look at the concern for a burial place, We then reach chapter 24, and Abraham, it now says, was old and well advanced in age. And the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. He's resolved, the story of the Machpelah for the moment. It's a fabulous haggling moment. And I would give it as a gift. Well, no, 400 shekels. It's very Middle East, and we don't always understand the subtleties of the Middle East even today, unfortunately. But as Abraham, ba b'yamim, enters his days, v'birechoto, and God blesses him, bakol, with everything. What does that mean? It means to come into the fullness of our lives, to be blessed with having what our lives were supposed to be about. The scholars, imagining their own needs, have made a fabulous midrash about Abraham never forgot anything that he ever learned. I can't remember why I came into the kitchen half the time. Many of my peers are in the same situation. Imagine never forgetting anything you ever learned. Ba b'yamim filled his days. And he's come into his days, and he wants to settle. Well, we want to settle. And what is it usually to enter our days and settle? We're worried about two things. One is business, and what are we leaving as an inheritance? He wants to make sure the cave is there. And he wants to have grandchildren. It's all of our concern. He got the son, but now there's no wife. So he sends his servant Eliezer to find a wife. And he sends him back to the homeland, back to where his family comes from. Not to marry a Canaanite, to find someone from his people. And a long saga of the story of Rebekah. And it came to pass, Eliezer the slave says, the girl to whom I shall say, let down your water jar, I beg you, that I may drink. And she shall say, drink, and I will give your camels drink also. May that be the woman. Well, lo and behold, Rebekah shows up and says, here's the water jar. And of course, Eliezer says, you must be the one. And they repeat the story a number of times in this portion. But then we get back to, as the wife comes back, we get back to Abraham. Because this is really the story of the end of a life cycle. And it says, these are the days of Abraham's life, which he lived 175 years. And Abraham expired and died in a good old age, full of years, and was gathered to his people. And his sons, Isaac and Ishmael, came and buried him in the cave of the Machpelah in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, which is before Mamre, and Mamre is, of course, Hebron. Isaac and Ishmael, the warring, conflicting sons, and their descendants are the same people that are having the same conflict over the same cave 3,500 years later. This was the 20th anniversary of Rabin's death. And all of us stood, took stock, and realized that our dream of 20 years ago has come nowhere near fulfillment. May we, ba b'yamim, come into the fulfillment of peace. Certainly in my day, in our own day, may we learn to speak as cousins and brothers. Shabbat Shalom.